Right. Okay. What should I do? Should I do Woad? Do you remember Woad?
The bright blue.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Do
Of
you
course I
remember the
remember
story?
Woad.
Okay.
Yes, I remember the story, but there's priapism involved.
Yes, there's priapism involved. Anyway, YouTube. Um, long ago. Long ago, the Romans decided to invade Scotland because they'd taken over Britain because everyone was trashed and dehydrated from eating terrible, terrible food. And they got very far north. They got very far north, and they started to get into Scotland. The thing you need to know about Scotland is that it's actually very flat. There are these little hills, but sound carries very far. It carries very far, and it gets trapped in the little valleys, and it comes from everywhere. And it's very misty. It's very misty in the mornings and the evenings. So what happened was the Romans sort of hung out in Britain for a long time, and it was long enough for the bagpipes, which was a Roman invention, to become acculturated in Scotland's weird-ass culture. And so they had the bagpipes, and they invented their own version of it, made out of like sheep and wool, and it was very strange and didn't sound anything like the sort of Kabagaida-esque things that the Romans had. It was horrifying and terrible, and sounded like things being murdered. So the Romans decided finally they're going to take care of the barbarian tribes in the north, and they march up and they set up camp, and the mist settles, and so early morning comes, and the bagpipes start. Only, the sound gets trapped and it carries very far, and so they hear the sound of like unholy monsters being murdered and desiccated and destroyed and consumed coming from all around them, and they can't see anything because there's just mist everywhere, and so they're severely freaked out. But they wait until like 11 o'clock in the morning until the fog starts to lift. So the thing that happens here is in Scotland there's a plant called the woad plant, and the woad plant you can grind up and boil or whatever, and you get this bright blue paint. It's very very pretty, and is also deeply hallucinogenic. It's basically like PCP and LSD for your everything. And it's bright blue, and it is absorbed through the skin. And it also has an effect of priapism, which gives you a permanent erection for the duration of your trip. So you become very, very aggressive. You start seeing things that aren't there, and you get a massive hard-on. Now at this time, you also need to understand that the Romans were fairly short people. They with an average height of something like 5'4", 5'5", something like that. And the Scottish were extremely large, average heights of like 5'10", 5'11", so they towered a good half a head at least over a given Roman soldier, and the tallest among them, were a good foot and a half taller than the shortest Roman. And so they were giants, and so what they saw, and the thing about the woad is that it was the battle paint. So what the Romans saw as the fog lifted and they lined up in their ranks were these enormous blue erect giants screaming and wailing. Did I mention that the Scots went into battle butt-ass naked? Because that's an important part. These giant, naked, erect, blue monsters wailing and screaming while murder-unearthed noises came from all sides. And the completely unarmed Scots started pouring down out of the hills, screaming and throwing themselves on the Roman spears and bleeding everywhere and screaming and thrusting and erections, and it was very terrifying. And the Romans were generally unhurt by this because they're, completely clad in a little box of armor, but it was so freaky they decided, well, no. And turned around, picked up some rocks, built a big-ass wall across Britain, and decided, you can have that part. And that's where Scotland came from.